Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Ruka changed into the bodyguard's clothes, while the bodyguard switched into Ruka's. Her hairstyle looked like Ruka's, and she put some makeup on so she could resemble Ruka as well. Ruka was worried about the bodyguard who would take her place in this mission. "Be careful, Karina." "Don't worry, Miss Singed. I've gone through a lot of training." Karina nodded. The car drove into a tunnel, and another car drove up next to the one Ruka was in. The truck that was behind them blocked the sight of the enemies. At the same time, Ruka jumped out of her car and into the one next to it thanks to Richard's help. Ruka was really brave. Traveling between two moving cars only made her a little pale. Otherwise, she was fine. Richard patted her back. "It's all right now. Leave everything to me. Someone will take you back home." "Be careful," Ruka said. Ren's call came. He too was worried when he heard that Ruka jumped from one moving vehicle into another. Fortunately, everything went well. The plan had to be executed perfectly so the enemy would be lured out as planned, or they might notice that something was wrong. After the truck drove into another road, the off-road vehicles quickly tailed the car Ruka was in earlier. The window was rolled down again, revealing the profile of a gorgeous lady. Her hair billowed in the wind, covering her face. When the people inside the CRV confirmed that it was Ruka, they told their colleagues so they could get ready for the kidnapping. Ruka had returned to the house, but she was feeling tense. She prayed that the plan would go well, and that everyone would come back safely. Ren came back a while later. Ruka stood up from the couch the moment he entered the living room. He quickly approached her and pulled her into his embrace. Ren caressed her hair and asked her if she was fine. "I'm fine, but I'm worried about Richard and his friends," Ruka said. "You don't have to. The mission's completed, and there were no casualties," Ren cooed. "Really? Are they the assassins who tried to kill you?" Ruka felt relieved. An arrest operation took place in a remote area in the city center, and it had just ended. All the people involved in the kidnapping were arrested, and Richard had all the evidence he needed to find out who the mastermind was. Meanwhile, Orson received a call at his residence, and what he heard almost gave him a heart attack. He coughed violently, then everything turned black and he collapsed to the ground. The failure of his plan meant he would be subjected to life imprisonment. The shock made him faint. Orson woke up while he was on his way to the hospital. He tried to escape by leaving the country, so he told his men to make the necessary preparations for him. What waited for him was something worse. Everything he did and every step he took would only lead him deeper into hell. He had no choice but to surrender, and yet he refused. Things only got worse for him. Richard finished his job perfectly. His men had been working non-stop with him lately. It was time to treat them to dinner. "When's your wedding, Cap?" "I can't wait. Next week, and I want to see you all there." He smiled. His wedding was delayed, but he was still really happy he got one. Friday came, and Ren wanted to take Ruka to a show. It was a private one. He thought it was sad that she was forced to stay at home, so he wanted to take her around town. The shows were segmented into several sections, like a dance performance and a piano performance. There were more than 20 shows waiting for them all in all. It would be a great event, but the audience was vetted. Ruka was wearing an elegant white dress. Her hair was tied up, and she followed Ren, looking like a princess. Thanks to Ren, she caught everyone's attention. Most of them had no idea who she was, but they still showed her enough respect. There was a female bodyguard going around with Ruka at all times, keeping her safe. After a few shows, Ruka excused herself to the restroom. The bodyguard went along with her. Before she even came close to the restroom, she heard a woman screaming. "What are you doing? You ruined my dress. This is my big day. I'm really sorry, Miss Liamson. I didn't mean it. The floor was just too slippery." "That's no excuse." And then Ruka heard the sound of a slap. "This'll teach you a lesson." Ruka knew that voice anywhere. She didn't expect to run into Sophie here. And she's as despicable as ever. Ruka narrowed her eyes and turned the corner. She saw Sophie wiping the water off her dress with a tissue, while a staff member was wiping her tears in the corner. Sophie was about to leave, but then she saw Ruka. The shock almost made her heart stop, but she quickly approached her warmly. Ruka. Did you come with Ren?" Sophie was getting closer to her. Just before she could give her a hug, Ruka took a step back, and the bodyguard stepped forward to stop Sophie. "Stand back." Sophie looked at Ruka's bodyguard angrily. "She's my friend." Ruka shot her an icy look. "We are most certainly not friends. I know I was a jerk to you, Ruka, and I'm sorry. I wish you and Ron all the happiness in the world. Please, can't we let this slide?" She put on a look of apology. Ruka thought it was laughable. She said coolly, "Miss Liamson, you're not that close to Ren. Call him Mr. Hassan. Don't forget about your manners." But Mrs. Hassan told me I could call him Run. It's hard to switch it around." Sophie was trying to tighten her relationship with Ron. It was an honor to be on a first-name basis with the vice president. "I do not care." "Switch it around," Ruka said seriously. Sophie was a little scared. She said sheepishly, "Very well. I'll do that." The lady who got slapped just now was about to leave. She thought it was unfair, but she was in no position to speak. Ruka said softly, "A minute, miss." The waitress looked at Ruka in surprise. She had no idea who Ruka was, but the fact that she could lecture Sophie spoke volumes about her status, not to mention that Ruka had an air of elegance about her. "What is it, miss?" "She hasn't apologized yet." "You deserve one," she said. And then Ruka stared at Sophie. "Apologize to her? Why should I? She drenched my dress. All I did was teach her a lesson." "So what? Mind your own business." Ruka looked at her dress. "Nothing but a few drops of water. It's not even visible." She said coldly, "You slapped her over a few drops of water? That's too much." "Ruka, you might be the VP's wife, but that doesn't mean you get to order me around," Sophie said arrogantly. Obviously she thought Ruka was just a peasant unworthy of Ron. The bodyguard warned, "Watch your tongue, miss." The waitress gasped. "She's the VP's wife? Oh my gosh, she's so young. I can't believe someone like her is standing up for me. Apologize, or I will cancel your performance." Ruka cocked her eyebrow. Confidence flared in her eyes. Sophie gave it her all just to get the chance to perform, so Ruka's threat made her panic. She quickly said, "I know I've crossed you, but that doesn't mean you can do this to me. Will you apologize, or won't you?" Ruka asked. Sophie bit her lip. She held her anger back and said, "I'm sorry." It was an insincere apology, but at least the waitress felt better. It felt great seeing Sophie forced to bow down and apologize because Ruka told her to. "Thank you, madam," she thanked Ruka and left. Sophie was about to leave, but then Ruka stopped her. "A beautiful dress, but a shame the one wearing it is evil. It taints whatever they're wearing, don't you think?" Sophie gnashed her teeth, but she couldn't possibly blow up. She turned around and smiled. "Of course. You're the VP's wife. Anything you say is right. You got it all wrong." What I mean is you won't be needing this dress tonight. Ruka might be kind, but she wasn't a forgiving person. She would never forget what Sophie did to her back at the Hassan residence. She even told Charlotte about her relationship with Ren and made her faint. Does she really think I'll let that slide? What do you want? I just apologized. Sophie said angrily. To the waitress, not me. Not to Charlotte. You're an evil woman. Do you really think I'd let you off the hook after everything you did? Ruka hissed. She was looking like a stern goddess at the moment. Sophie thought that was water under the bridge, and she didn't expect Ruka to think otherwise. It made her nervous. I'm sorry. I apologize to you and the Hassans. I was a fool, she quickly apologized. I can't let her destroy my piano career. Apologies won't do you any good. Cancel the show yourself. I don't want to see you on the stage. Ruka then went toward the restroom. Sophie was red with fury. She didn't think Ruka was powerful enough to actually cancel a show that was already scheduled. There was no way she would give up either. There's tons of big shots here tonight. Her plan was to showcase her skills to them and probably date someone rich and powerful. I won't give up just like that. Ruka went back to the center seat in the first row after she was done using the restroom. Ren thought she was gone for a long while, so he asked, "Are you feeling unwell?" She shook her head and huddled closer to him. I ran into Sophie just now. She has a piano performance scheduled, but I don't want to see her. I get what you mean. He waved at the person in charge, who called all the shots at this event. He quickly approached Ren and bowed. What would you need, sir? Ron ordered, cancel Sophie Liamson's show. The person nodded without missing a beat. Of course. I'll do it right away. Backstage, Sophie was starting to feel nervous. She paced back and forth. Can Ruka actually cancel my show? The director came in, and she tensed up. What is it, director? Miss Liamson, your show is cancelled. Pack your things and leave right now. She blanched. So she did it. With the cancellation of her show, her name would be tarnished. She might be kicked out of every important show from this point forward. Please just let me perform. I put in a lot of effort for this. Sophie tried to put up one last fight. However, the director did not waver. I'm sorry, but the adjustments have been made. Sophie and her assistant left through the corridor. She stood in the shadows, staring at Ruka, who was seated right beside Run, then she clenched her teeth. She didn't expect crossing Ruka would mean the loss of her career. The performance was a success, and Ruka was in a good mood. The woman she despised didn't show up after all. It was 9:30 when the show came to an end. She was tired from watching it. Ruka rested her head on Ren's shoulder and drifted to sleep while they were on their way home. She didn't wake up even when they got home, so Ron took her inside himself. Ruka had woken up when Ren picked her up, but she pretended to be asleep anyway. I can have a good night's sleep. Yay, me. No hunky-dory tonight. That was her plan, at least. She kept pretending to be asleep when Ren was taking her coat and socks off. She lay in his arms, wearing nothing but a layer of clothes. When Ren finally went into the bathroom, she heaved a sigh of relief and actually drifted to sleep. Ruka even continued her dream. Vaguely, she felt the edge of the bed moving downward, and then she felt someone pulling her into his warm embrace. Her face was stuck to his chest, and she jolted awake. I was already asleep, she muttered. Show me a little respect, will you? Just go to sleep and ignore me. He chuckled. He made it sound like he wouldn't be affected even if she was asleep. Ruka's face was red as an apple. She could taste his scent in the air. Guess I can't run away tonight. She wrapped her arms around his waist and tried to talk sense into him while he had some left. I'm tired. Just get it over with, all right? Run smirked. Just get it over with? Oh, my sweet summer child. I'll try to finish as soon as possible, he said. Dr. Silas said you can't do this too much after you just healed, or it's gonna be bad for your body. Ruka's phone rang right after that. She picked it up and was surprised to see that Jethro was the one calling. Why is he calling me? Don't take the call, Run said imperiously. Ruka put her phone back on the table and turned silent mode on. Run pulled her into his embrace. Block all the guys' numbers. I don't want them calling you. He was obviously jealous. Ruka blinked. She didn't realize he was jealous. I've slept with you. You don't have to mind them. Still. Ron couldn't forget the fact that Ruka said she liked Jethro before. He pressed his forehead against hers and asked, still can't forget about him? Whoops. This is serious. It won't be easy dealing with a jealous Run. I'll block his number. She was motivated now. I didn't expect him to be a jealous guy. Do it tomorrow. He then leaned in for a fierce kiss. Apparently, the guy wanted to vent a little. The kiss eventually suffocated her and turned her face beet red. I should stay quiet, or he's gonna do something wilder. You're gonna forget every other guy and only have eyes for me, got it? He whispered into her ear and nibbled on it. Ruka cupped his chin, the love in her eyes overflowing. You're the only one I care about now. Ron smiled happily, and she blinked at him. Can we just sleep in peace? Do you think we can do that at this point? He pulled her into his embrace so she could feel him. You're worried I might exhaust myself? Well, I'll show you how inexhaustible I am. The room became hot and heavy as Ruka heard him say, I love you, Ruka. The lady was too dizzy to even form a reply. Friday arrived not too long after. A simple wedding was held in a tightly secured hotel. There were less than 100 guests there. Richard was the groom and Angela was the bride. Annie was the bridesmaid, while Jared was the best man. Two pairs of couples stood out among the crowd. Elliot and Anastasia were there with their son. Arthur and Sophie were there as well. Sophie's belly was starting to bulge. She was already 5 months pregnant. It wasn't every day they could meet up. Even so, their friendship would never change. Arthur patted Richard's shoulder. He congratulated, Congrats, Richard. So, when's your turn to hold a wedding? Back home? After Sophie gives birth. Arthur respected Sophie's wishes to wait until she had given birth. She wanted to see herself in a beautiful gown, and she wanted their child to witness the marriage. Arthur was actually worried his friend would be single for life before this. Fate finds a way, huh? Richard took his friends to meet up with Ron. The men were outstanding enough to attract everyone's attention. The ladies who had the privilege to join this wedding felt their hearts flutter just looking at them. To their mild frustration, they realized that all these men were taken, and their partners were gorgeous. They wished they could find a man who would look at them like they were the best things in life as well. Ruka wanted to be the bridesmaid, but she wasn't single anymore, so they went through with the whole wedding process. Angela was the prettiest woman on that day, and Richard even changed his usual demeanor for once. He was smiling all the way. He was the happiest man on earth right now. All of Richard's men were there too. They witnessed how this love began, and now they would witness how it evolved. As the couple walked down the red carpet hand in hand, the men could remember how their first meeting went. She was someone he had to protect, while he was engaged to someone else. They met each other a little late in life, but their love was unstoppable. Angela was pregnant, so Richard was almost holding her in his embrace all the way. He refused to let her drink even one drop of wine. Philip, his wife, Harold, and Charlotte took up a table. They felt rueful but happy at the same time. After all, Philip's grandson was getting married, and he would be blessed with a grandkid soon. Ren and Ruka were at a table on the Hassan side of the venue. There were a lot of ladies there, and they were astonished by how majestic Ren was. They liked him, but all they could do was admire him from afar. Richard was the most handsome guy that night. He was now a husband and would soon be a father. Meanwhile, Angela's family were crying tears of joy. They were happy their daughter married the right man. The wedding ran from 9 in the morning to 9 at night. The guests could feel the love in the air as they bore witness to the sanctity of love and marriage. Anastasia and Sophie had become the best of friends, and they took a great liking to Angela too. From then on, these ladies would be the strongest supporters of one another. Night fell, and a hint of lust crept into the air. Ruka had a bit too much to drink. Angela introduced her to yet another pair of capable, gorgeous ladies today, so she took drinking a bit too far. It wasn't until she was about to go home did she realize the alcohol was kicking in. Her head was woozy, and her cheeks were burning. "I'm getting tipsy." Ren got in the car as well. He met and greeted a lot of people tonight, so he had some to drink too. His face was pink, but his alcohol tolerance was high and he wasn't even tipsy. He noticed Ruka massaging her forehead. Ron leaned over and asked with concern, "Had too much to drink? Does your head hurt?" He pressed his palm against her forehead.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.